Hello, everyone. My name is Darrell Lamont Jenkins. I am the founder and executive director of One People's Project based in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And I was asked to do this video because I could not be with you in person. And there is something going on in the next couple of weeks that has been a particular thorn in the side for a lot of folks in Middle Tennessee for a number of years now. And I will be there for this, but I would like to see if others can join me and everyone that has been fighting this for the past several years. And a lot of people who are watching this video right now are particularly new to this thing that we're talking about. And what I'm talking about is the American Renaissance Conference, otherwise known as the AMREN Conference. So I was asked to give a little bit of history as to who they are, what they are about, and why we have been opposing them over the past, I guess, 7, 8 years now. Well, for starters, American Renaissance is a publication. It is not a group. It is a publication that was started in 1990 by the New Century Foundation, which is headed up by Jared Taylor. Now, Jared Taylor is a former board member of the Council of Conservative Citizens, which was formed out of the White Citizens Councils back in the 60s and was particularly pro segregation, and nothing's changed. And Taylor, in fact, when Dylan Roof killed 9 people in South Carolina, the Council of Conservative Citizens was implicated in some of Dylan Roof's writings, and Jared Taylor served as the spokesperson for the Council of Conservative Citizens. I'm going to be talking about them in a minute. But in any case, American Renaissance is supposed to be a kind of academic slash political newsletter that promotes the idea that Black people are inferior to whites genetically and intellectually, that there should be a separation of the races, particularly because they believe that Black people are predisposed genetically and intellectually to committing crimes. And the usual routines that we hear from white supremacists on a regular basis. But they do it on a quote unquote proper level. In fact, Jared Taylor is also often referred to as the genteel racist. There's nothing genteel about his racism. It's just something that the media likes to do to downplay the kinds of things that he's about, and that's not good. So that's the reason why they have been opposed. But the thing is, as is the case with the Council of Conservative Citizens, there's a lot of political connections. When you talk about the Council of Conservative Citizens, you're talking about elected officials that are members of that group. That does bleed over into what Jared Taylor has been doing over the past 20 years or so. In fact, these conferences that he would hold, they used to hold them in Washington, D.C., and C-SPAN even broadcast them regularly. Council of Conservative Citizens used to have conferences being shown on C-SPAN, as did American Renaissance. But then people started getting wise to what they were about, and they became a pariah, and C-SPAN stopped doing it sometime around 99, 2000. In 2006, 2008, people started mounting opposition to those conferences because what will happen is we would see whatever it is going on in the conferences bleed out into what's going on in our social political arenas. Case in point, in 2006, when there was protests against them, that attracted the media, and the media was in the conferences talking to participants. And one of them turned out to be a prosecutor in upstate New York. He got fired when they realized he attended this conference. So in 2008, Jared Taylor barred the media from even being inside the room. It was a biannual conference in these years. What happened was in 2010, they announced that they was going to have a conference, and my organization, One People's Project, mounted opposition against them. And we contacted anti-fascists and people who were concerned about this conference and let them know what was going on, and they caused them to get shut down. 4 hotels disallowed their conference in their venue, so they had to cancel that year. Now, like I said, it was a biannual conference at that time, so we thought that we wouldn't have to worry about it again until 2012. But in 2011, he decided to hold the conference again. And once again, we mobilized. And once again, hotels started shutting their doors to the conference, and he got shut down again. Interesting thing about that, I was down in Charlotte, North Carolina, when all of this was happening. And I had to come back. But I had to come back after everything was all said and done. I lost my father. He had passed away while I was dealing with this nonsense. So, in many respects, me going after American Renaissance is a little personal because I wasn't here for my father while in his last days, in his last hours, because I had to do work. I think my father will understand, but it's unfortunate that I wasn't here. But I'm glad we shut that conference down. Now, to that end, they had to figure out a way to keep their conferences from being shut down. They came up with the idea that if they booked a public facility would not be a government owned facility, as they would put it. They would not be able to kick them out as readily as, say, a private venue such as a hotel or a union hall, whatever, um, could. And they were right. And they also added another caveat: do it so remote that do the conference in such a remote area that no one would be interested in traveling out to oppose them. And in many respects, they were right about that too. They chose Montgomery Bell Park Inn in Burns to do just that, to accomplish that goal. And they did that in 2012, and they've just been there ever since. This is going to be the 8th year that they have been holding their conference. This is the 8th year they've held their conference at Montgomery Bell. Although in recent years it's been a little harder because Trump has shined a nice little spotlight on them, um, either indirectly or what have you. That happened, and in 2017, Richard Spencer announced at this conference, at the Amarin conference that year, that there was going to be an event in Charlottesville that he wanted everybody to attend. He specifically said that he believed that he expects it to be something dramatic, some might say traumatic for the liberals in Charlottesville, Virginia. We all know how that went. It was also the first year when we was able to mobilize significantly. In years past, there was only a few of us out there. In 2017, we were out there. We were out there in droves, and we was trying to make sure that they knew that we had enough of this nonsense. Um, and of course, 2 weeks later, Charlottesville happened, and it put them under the microscope even more so. Cut to 2018, and this has never happened before. We get there, and they fortified the entire inn. You could not walk in as easily as we were able to do in years past. Remember, a public place for them means a public place for us. But as many of us would know from dealing with these individuals in other situations, defending their freedom of speech always seems to come at our expense, at the expense of our freedom of speech. or at the expense of the freedoms that everyone in the general public enjoys. So, whereas in years past, because we were allowed to go in and out of the conference hall so long as we didn't bother them in their conference, they shut down the entire inn to the general public while they held their conference. They shut down pretty much that segment of the park while they were holding their conference. And that wasn't just something that they did to the protesters, something that they did to us who were opposing them. They did it to everyone that was there to enjoy the park. That means the folks who paid money in taxes to enjoy the inn, to enjoy Montgomery Bell Park Inn or a park in general, and it wasn't fair to them. And it didn't seem to matter, and they're going to do that again this year. I think that the reason why I have been asked to do this video is because stakes are high. Enough's enough, and it's getting worse, particularly at Montgomery Bell, because they have been allowed, American Renaissance have been allowed free reign in this park, so much free reign, in fact, that other organizations are coming to Montgomery Bell Park to hold their conferences. I mentioned the Council of Conservative Citizens in the past. Last year, they held their conference, a joint conference between with them and another group called the American Freedom Party. Used to be called American Third Position. Now, unlike American Renaissance that tries to downplay some of the neo-Nazi trappings that other white supremacist groups will have, um, and even the Council of Conservative Citizens does that to a degree. Everything is pretty much laid bare on the table when it comes to what you saw with the second conference. And this year is no different. American Renaissance will be holding their conference May 17th to the 19th at Montgomery Bell. The following month, between June 28th to the 30th, is going to be the second joint conference of the Council of Conservative Citizens and American Freedom Party. And one of the keynote speakers at that particular conference is David Duke, the former head of the Ku Klux Klan. And the reason why I say the former head of the Ku Klux Klan is because they like to say he's the former head of the Ku Klux Klan. But curiously enough, representatives of the Klan group that he founded will also be speaking at this conference. Who else is speaking at this conference? Richard Spencer. And then there are others that many of us who deal with neo-Nazis and white supremacists are familiar with that will also be speaking there. It is important for everyone to take note of this. It is important also for everyone to step up and start telling them, this is too much. We can't do this anymore. Enough's enough. We are going to oppose you every time you come out. And going to have to start calling the task those that are in charge of the parks, those that are in government or your elected officials who keep allowing this to happen. Sure, you could say that they have freedom of speech. That is always going to be the line that they give you. But as I pointed out in recent years, they didn't seem to be too concerned about our freedom of speech as we come out to oppose them. So we know that they have avenues that they can go down in order to keep this nonsense from going on year after year after year. Bear in mind that when they do convene, they are organizing, they are networking, they are trying to figure out ways to diminish our rights, our freedoms, our abilities to be who we are, the best that we can be. That scares a fascist, that scares a Nazi. And whenever they're getting assistance from the government that we put in place, remember, a lot of these folks who are coming to Montgomery Bell aren't even from Tennessee. So basically, they're exploiting your park to meet their needs and their goals of uprooting everything that this society is supposed to be about. There's a direction that the society is going in. So I'm glad I was able to do this video because I think it's important to press upon everyone watching that you can't ignore them anymore. You cannot stay home as they continue on to do this. Because if you do, you're going to miss something. And you don't want that thing to be your freedoms. And they organize every single year to destroy just that. And they have the ability to do so if you don't take it away from them. And the only way you can take it away from them is if you're there telling them you cannot go any further than this. So hopefully I'll see you out there in May and in June. Hopefully you can encourage others to come out to oppose them as well. If you can't get out there, send two people who can. So hopefully, like I said, I'll see you on in May and June. I definitely will be driving down from New Brunswick, New Jersey, and uh, and I got to tell you, I love Tennessee. I love coming down there. What I hate is just coming down for things like this. You're a better state than these characters. Show them. Take care, y'all.